Hello guys, welcome back to the Sportsman Untitled Extra, and what a big match preview we have for you this week. It's Ipswich versus Norwich at Portman Road, and who better to preview it with me than Benjamin Bloom. Now, we're recording this on Monday because it's the only time we could get hold of Ben, but we're going to have a deep dive into both teams' seasons so far. And Ben, Ipswich haven't beaten Norwich since 2009, mate. What's going on?
Oh, God, man. You said who better to preview this? Somebody who actually likes this game. This is like, I know when the fixture list comes out, everyone says, what's the first thing you look for? And if you're an Ipswich fan, you're not looking at it, for positive reasons. You're like, oh, is it going to be pain again? Or can Ipswich finally beat Norwich? Let me say something positive. I believe this is the first time since probably even the start of the run that Ipswich have had the better team and squad on paper. We've had a lot of years of Norwich yo-yoing up and down Premier League Championship, having parachute payments while Ipswich are stinking it out with Marcus Evans and Mick McCarthy trying to just keep things going. Then we had Daniel Farker and Emi Buendia versus Paul Lambert and Colin Quaynard, do you know what I mean? And it wasn't really the fairest fight. And, I mean, you mentioned it to me just before we started shooting this. Even in the promotion season, Ipswich didn't beat Norwich. But you can still argue there, Ipswich coming up right in the crest of a wave with a League One side, and Norwich still with plenty of quality in that side. So I'm never optimistic for these games, but I'm slightly less pessimistic than I have been in previous years.
It's now 14 games on the trot without a win for Ipswich. At what point does this become a really big psychological thing that they can't get over? Are we past that stage already?
Mate, we're way past that. And look, you've probably met enough footballers and football managers to know this is not a player or manager issue. This is a fan and football stadium issue. And as much as players are elite and they have a mentality the likes of me could never dream to have, when a stadium is anxious and nervous, that can transmit to players. And it's just been, and we even had like the coach welcome to the ground last time, and they tried to hype it all up, and here we go, away we go. And Norwich still managed to prick the balloon, burst the bubble in that stadium. So look, once it got over 4, 5, 6 years, it becomes this undefeated streak, and it's just got ridiculous. And even the one in 2018 where Ipswich took the lead at Carrow Road in minute 89 and still drew. So that ship has long since sailed.
There's also the little extra spice of a certain Marcelino Nunes
some
to
Chilean
add into
spice,
this.
yes.
Exactly, yes. Not sure he'll start this game, but
I don't think he will,
certainly a lovely little extra addition to make the derby a little bit more fierce. As I've said, we're recording this on Monday before the midweek fixtures, but it's been slightly underwhelming on the whole from both clubs so far this season. Ipswich, at the time of recording, back-to-back wins, so potentially could have turned a corner, although the caveat that they might have lost at Blackburn Rovers in the middle of that. The rain at Blackburn.
No, that game doesn't exist.
I was like, well, it wasn't raining in Bristol. No, yeah, absolutely. So what have you made of Ipswich so far?
Well, I agree with you. Underwhelming to a certain extent, and you kind of spend all of those years struggling in the Championship, wanting to be the team with the money and the players that's just been relegated from the Premier League, and you become them, and you're struggling a little bit. I do still think the circumstances in the modern parachute world, no one's gone back to back. And just to make this very clear for people who don't understand when I say that, I'm talking sort of post 2014, 2015, when the Premier League TV money really went ridiculous. No one's gone back to back since then. And that's provided its own challenges, big squad churn that you and I have spoken about many times. And it's been slow progress. Yeah, back-to-back wins, but you can say Sheffield United was a soft opponent, even though Philogene was incredible and it was 5-0. That was the last game for Sellers, and a complete second-half collapse for blades, which you would think Norwich won't do. And then Pompey at the weekend felt like a good time to play them. And a game that we could be sitting here, Simon, talking about a 3 or a 4-0 win ends up being 2-1 because they score a rubbishy set play. At the end, you're right to mention Nunes, because the reason he's probably not going to start, providing no one gets hurt at Bristol City in the week, is the biggest positive. Matasiwa, Kayuste in central midfield, that is now starting to tick. And yes, you're very high on Hackney and Morris, but we're going to be talking about those two as one of the best pairs in the Championship if they stay together.
Absolutely, and there is another team obviously taking part in this derby.
Really?
Norwich are interesting this season. I've had my slight concerns about Liam Manning at the start of the season based on the fact that they jumped so quickly for him after he took Bristol City into the playoffs. Obviously, he's done reasonably well at MK Dons and Oxford before that, but jumped ship quite quickly. Interesting you talk about midfield, I think, Ben, because Norwich's midfield doesn't seem quite right and not quite how I view a Norwich midfield or how it should look. Because I think if you look at Norwich in the past, and all their successful teams have had a really creative number 10 in, really exciting player, one of the best players in the league, whether that be Wes Houlihan going back to James Maddison, Emi Buendia, and then obviously they've lost Borja Sainz who played on the wing, but
another one, yeah.
That is how a Norwich team is viewed in my eyes. This season, at the weekend, they played Kenny McLean, Liam Gibbs and Pelly Matson, the new fella, against Stoke, and they drew 1-1, but there's no creativity or excitement in this midfield for me, and I know they've got other younger options, but I think that's potentially another debate as well, where they've spent a decent amount of money. I think they've spent £50 million since Stuart Webber left the club. But all of that money's been spent on prospects, on looking for the new Emi Buendia. I mean, you look at the likes of Schwartu, if you look at Forson, Jurasek, Cernach, even Jacob Wright to some extent, there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of excitement. But I don't think they're ready now. I don't think they're quite ready now to take the Championship by storm and get Norwich up into the playoffs, especially when you contrast that with the manager they've actually got. I'm not sure it's actually matching up that well, especially in midfield for Norwich.
Well, I agree totally about its potential, and there's probably no surprise that game Norwich kind of survived at Portman Road. Yeah, Johnny Rowe was the difference. There was also Ashley Barnes, Shane Duffy, Kenny, as you mentioned, in central midfield. But I remember it was Gabby Sara and Marcelino Nunes. Yeah. You just made me feel a little bit sick because I hadn't realised Liam Gibbs had started at Stoke, and he, of course, very strange situation where Ipswich kind of just didn't offer him a contract, and he went from Suffolk to Norfolk. So there may be one player starting the game at the weekend who's gone from one club to the other, and it might actually be Liam Gibbs.
I didn't mention Sara, by the way, in my exciting kind of number 10 attacking midfield roles, because him and, I know Nunes sometimes plays a bit deeper, but those creative, exciting midfielders are what's missing from Norwich right now.
You mustn't forget, probably the best striker in the league is Ginger and plays for Norwich.
But he needs service. This is the point. He's got 5 goals, but I think they could be doing a lot better in terms of creating chances for him. I agree, he's incredible, great finisher, but I don't think they're doing enough for him in terms of midfield creativity from what I've seen so far.
Simon, Norwich always turn up in the derby.
Well, yeah.
Maybe this will be a coming out party for one of these, like you say, fairly expensive, fairly exotic, but potentially very good signings. We shall find out.
I saw Manning in a few of the Norwich forums getting called a bit of a buzzword manager as well, which is not great. And I think there's these ambitions at the start of the season for Norwich where they signed all these players and there was a new manager in place who'd reached the playoffs and they thought they'd be in the top 6 and challenging for that. And I think that's still a possibility this season if it comes together. But I just think there's a big piece missing. And you mentioned experience. I think 2 of their more impressive players or signings have been Harry Darling and Jack Stacey in defence. So potentially there's room for them to kind of come to the fore in this game. I think it'll be a really interesting matchup. Obviously 2 players who left were Liam Delap and Borja signed for big money this summer. They're trying to move on from them, both of these teams. In terms of Ipswich's home form then, Portman Road, the derby, is it good enough to get the win, Ben? That's what we want to know.
Yes.
There's a caveat coming.
It's just a unique fixture, and hear a lot of patronising nonsense, frankly, for people who don't necessarily understand this fixture. Oh, we're out in East Anglia. This means a hell of a lot to both fan bases, and people incorrectly, in my opinion, talk about the distance between the two clubs, which I think actually makes it a better derby, because there's only one club in each county. With the sea literally going round Suffolk and Norfolk, you don't need to go to Norfolk. If you don't need to go to Suffolk, you don't. This is the only time we meet. This is massive for East Anglia.
I think there's also the point to be made, and I went to uni with a few Norwich fans who were like, this rivalry exists in every sport. There was a guy who played, like lawn bowls for his county, for Norfolk, and their big rivalry was against Suffolk. And I think in every sport in that part of the country, the big rivalry is Norfolk, Suffolk, Ipswich, Norwich. And football, obviously, is the pinnacle of that. I really like it as a rivalry, because they're the only clubs, aren't they, that matter.
I say it's fantastic. It has got to the point. And there is a darker side of this, because there's obviously the games always get moved for police issues, and it can be a little bit spiky on the way in and out, and there's a lot of police around and helicopters flying over above, and, dogs and horses everywhere. And it's just so nerve-wracking when you get in there. The thing that Ipswich have just not been able to do is manage the occasion and the situation. And we already mentioned those two games. They couldn't manage being 1-0 up at Carrow Road from minute 89, the best chance you're ever going to get. Just, you've got Mick McCarthy as your manager and you've got to defend for 5 minutes. You think you'd be able to do it. And then, like you said, with all the hype in the promotion season, got them at home first, couldn't win the home game. It's only going to be Hurst and Davis and of course Nunes that's played in the game before. Just if you hadn't realised the clanging narrative, Nunes scored the winner for Norwich in the last East Anglian derby. Can they manage the emotions? I'm not talking about the players, I'm talking about the club and the fans and the football stadium. Can they do that and it not be a massive puddle of anxiety that results in Norwich coming away again with something?
In terms of the actual players for Ipswich this season, I think Philogene has been outstanding, hasn't he? He's really been the standout player for Ipswich. Another cracking goal at the weekend against Portsmouth. Can he be the difference maker, do you reckon, for the home side?
Yeah, potentially. You'd think Manning will have a plan for him. So sometimes you go in thinking he'll be the difference maker, and it's the fact that he's taking attention over here and maybe somebody else the other side. Casey McAteer. Interestingly, Kieran McKenna started Eggerly, the expensive wonder kid, at the weekend, which probably means he's now not going to start. And again, we're recording before the midweek round, so you'd expect that we know it will be McAteer and Smodics and Philogene and Hurst, Matasiwa, Kaius, Furlong, Davis, O'Shea, Greaves, Palmer. We're pretty sure that'll be the team. And what you would say about Ipswich now is there's a lot of balance. Two good wide players, two Championship Golden Boot winners with Akpom on the bench to potentially be the number 10. So yes, Philogene scored an amazing hat-trick and a brilliant goal against Pompey. But yeah, there's a lot of quality there. But don't make me convince myself that that's any reason to be confident, Simon.
I'll argue the Norwich case
Please.
Right now, because I watched them in full at Coventry, and their defensive display was one of the best I've ever seen.
Good, the new keeper,
The new keeper is excellent. Darling was amazing. I think they blocked 15 shots in that match, which is the most they've ever blocked in one game since record began. I think Darling got 8 blocks, something like that. They've got the best striker in the league. They will need a similar type of performance here, I think, in terms of defensive resoluteness, time wasting, all of that horrible stuff that you don't want to see. They will need to do all
Simon
of that.
Simon said Norwich were guilty of time wasting, not me, by the way, for the comment. Yeah.
Oh, even they'd admit that, I think.
The dark arts.
They'll need to do that. Absolutely, they will need to do that and be at their very best at doing that. I think there's a possibility if they nick a goal and get that first goal through Sargent, probably.
Simon, Norwich
they can make it.
Always score at Portman Road. While you talk about that, I'm going to look up when the last time they didn't score at Portman Road, because I don't think it even is going to be on And they always get a goal, mate.
Since records began.
Since records began, yeah.
Listen, they, despite my criticism of them in terms of potentially an attacking sense and creating chances and lacking that key number 10, they've got hard workers. They've got Kenny McLean. They've got Darling. Even Gibbs, to some extent, is a hard-working tackling midfielder in there. I think they can make it difficult for Ipswich at Portman Road. And if they nick that first goal, I think it's going to be really, really tough for them, Ben, Ipswich, to get back into this game. I'm going to go, here, we'll move on to the score predictions now. I'm going to say Ipswich are still not going to beat Norwich.
Oh.
Sorry, mate. I'll go for a...
But they're going to beat them in the away game, right?
I'll go for a 1-1 draw, and if you want to hear my score prediction for the away game, you'll have to tune in when we do that preview. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, very hard-working, Ipswich to dominate most of the game, Norwich to nick a goal, Ipswich to find an equaliser late on. Through Nunes, maybe? Should I say that off the bench?
Do you know the stupid thing with all of this? If Ipswich were to beat Bristol City and draw against Norwich, that is, of course, a really good 3-game week, isn't it? You'd have 7 points, wouldn't you? But, of course, if you gave me a 5-0 defeat against Bristol City and the most scuzzy 1-0 win over Norwich, I'd take it now. I haven't done this for years, and I'm going to do it a few times this week on various shows. I am going to predict Ipswich to win the East Anglian Derby.
Come on, Ben.
For
there
the
we
first
go.
time in 1,000 years, just based on the squad quality, the timing of it. But however they do it, Norwich are going to... I think I've just looked on the thing. I think Norwich scoring at Portman Road, it goes even... We're talking 20, 25 years.
Wow.
There, you know, since they've been actually shut out at Portman Road. So I'll go Ipswich by 1 goal, maybe 2-1, maybe 3-2. But, God...
Oh, I'm so
I can
excited.
already feel the butterflies in the... Well, it's not even butterflies, just a wrenching, sicky feeling.
We'll have to leave it there, I think, Ben. But you have backed Ipswich to win. That's good. If you want to get your score predictions in the comments down below, let me know what you think of Norwich's season and Ipswich's season so far as well. But this game, Sunday at 12 o'clock, Norwich versus Ipswich Norwich rather, because it's at Portman Road. Cannot wait for it. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back with the Sportsman Untitled full show on Monday, and we will certainly be talking about this Ipswich Norwich game. We'll see you on Monday.